Thank you, Amalana, and thank you, everyone. I remember you. Welcome back from your ordination at the LBC in 2018. Yeah, it's really wonderful. And I came here. I think I came here for the first time in 2019. At the time, Maitrinara, who I was living with when I was living at the London Buddhist Center in Sekhavati, one of the men's community there, invited me to come to, it was Sangade, and it's interesting, I had the kind of flash memory of that day, and what I was thinking just sitting there, I was thinking that actually, we've come a long way as a community, we've really come a long way, and yet we're kind of the same, doing the same thing, still here, still celebrating our community, still celebrating the enlightenment of the Buddha, still practicing and growing as a community. And today is actually quite an auspicious day because it was the full moon yesterday night, and it's still the full moon right now. So in another part of the world, maybe in India, maybe it's full moon and night right now. And the Buddha to be, actually was the Buddha now, Siddhartha Gautama, when he gained enlightenment 2,600 years or so ago. We don't know exactly the date, but what we know and what we're sure of is that he gained enlightenment under a full moon. And so you can imagine now a human being just having realized this new type of consciousness, sitting down in India with that type of weather, and really just being with the sort of the full sort of range of his experience just unfolding right now, yeah. And in the Buddhist community, what's interesting is that the Buddha was also born on the full moon. He also gained paranirvana, the death of the body of the Buddha, on the full moon, and he gained enlightenment on the full moon as well. And most Buddhists in the world will be celebrating right now what we call Wesak, the enlightenment, the birth and the death of the Buddha. So maybe what we can do, because we are a large community of people now in Brixton, people do know us now in Brixton, which I think is amazing. As you're saying, the mayor came here, he came to our Monday night meditation class, and he absolutely loved it. He actually gave us an award, so Maitrinara and myself went to visit the mayor last Tuesday, we went to his parlor, he gave us an award. And he was just rejoicing in us and what we're doing, which is absolutely wonderful. But most Buddhists in the world now, right now, will be celebrating the enlightenment of the Buddha. So what we can do now, just right now, is just maybe as a thought, as a feeling, is like just getting a connection with this worldwide, this universal, not universal, maybe worldwide Buddhist community. Yeah. So I wanted to come here today. I was going to say thank you for having me, but I kind of invited myself. The reason for that is because we're going through a very significant phases in our project. Probably most of you know, but even though we're still here, this space has changed. The atmosphere of this space has changed. Physically, the space has changed. And what essentially this space is becoming a Buddhist center. That's what this space is. And very soon, actually, we're so close to get the lease. In fact, I wanted to come here today because I assumed that we would have got the lease. We haven't got the lease just yet, but almost. We're very not far off. And I wanted to come to you. I wanted to come and, in a way, sort of talk with you. As a kind of conversation, but I'll say things first. Just a warning. Not just yet, guys. As what we're doing, what are we doing? What's our vision? What are we working towards? Where do we want to head to, as a community? So mainly what I wanted to do is to share our vision. And our vision, it's not my vision. It's what we've been doing for a long time. Actually, I mentioned I came here in 2019. There was someone 3 weeks ago came to our team meeting And he said that he came here for the first time with our community in 1991. I'm not sure how you can work that out. That's a long time ago. I didn't know we existed then, but we've been around for quite a long time. And I became the chair in 2023, so that was a bit less than 3 years ago. Amaladan mentioned that I didn't exactly know at that time what I was doing. He's absolutely right. I had no clue of what it was to become a chair. I've never worked in a Buddhist center before. I was only ordained for a bit more than a year, and I jumped into this project not really knowing what to do. And the first thing that I've done as a chair is just to respond to the needs that the community needed at the time. And I remember working very closely with Amaladana and the team. And the main thing that we are focusing on, especially post-lockdown, was building Sangha, creating Sangha, making sure that we've got a viable project that we can sustain and that we can grow. That's really what we were working on. And we were in this kind of, not in a negative way, but we were in this kind of tunnel vision, turning up every Monday night, Wednesday night, weekends, whatever. We just turned up. Whoever was coming, it didn't really matter. And we're here and we're just building some, we're just the people who were here. And it's only when Tejas Fati, who at the time was the program manager in the team, she was responsible for organizing twice a year a team day. So we have a day with the team where we just spend time together, we check in, we've got workshops, presentation, and so on and so forth. And she came up to me, so that must have been 2023 actually, maybe late December 2023. And she told me, she said, look, as a chair, I would like us to tell us about your vision. And what's your vision, with the project and with the community. One of the main functions as a chair is to kind of hold the vision. It's not the vision of the chair, but the chair has to understand what the community is trying to do, what we are trying to do as a project, and trying to hold that together. And when she asked me that, I was like, oh wow, I have no idea. And then she was telling me that some centers, they have an image for their vision, like the LBC. I don't know if it's true actually, but she was saying that the LBC, at the time it was probably true, I'm not sure it's true now, she was saying that the LBC as a vision has Kalana Mitrata, so spiritual friendship. The North London Buddhist Center had as a vision the finger pointing at the moon. Croydon had transforming society, transforming self and world. And then I was wondering, what's our vision? What's our image for the vision? And I didn't have to think about it. It sort of came up in my mind. It was absolutely obvious that what the people have been doing, and you mentioned that lineage before, all the people that have been here in Brixton before, what we were doing now was building a Buddhaland. Yeah? It was building a Buddhaland. This was our image, and that is actually what we're doing. I'm going to be talking about that very soon, and make sure that you maybe agree. You may say no, I'm not on board with that. You never know. But before I do that, I would just like to share a few things. So the first thing that I would like to share with you, it's a personal story. As a young person, when I was 10 years old, so I'm from the south of France. Maybe some people figured that out with my accent that I'm French. And when I was 10 years old, my parents were, I think I grown up in a very good sort of family. My parents were very good with me, and every summer they were going on holiday. And this time they're going on a big trip. They went to India. First time for them going to India. I didn't quite understand what it was to go to India, but what I understood, it meant that I was going to stay for 4 weeks with my grandparents. I wasn't that happy about it, but anyway, that's another story. My grandparents had a family holiday, a kind of holiday home, somewhere called Espradel in Lozère. So it's up in the mountain in the south of France. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful place. I like going there, but it was a bit like a retreat because there's nothing else to do except just being in nature, just enjoying nature and yourself. And I stayed there, I think, for about 3 weeks or something like that. And it's a long time for 10 years old. I had bags of times on my hands. And I think it's funny, I have a sister, but I have no recollection of her, so she might have been doing something else. I hope. Maybe we can cut that, we can edit that out in the recording. I really love my sister, she's a really good person. I remember one night, so I had bags of times, and I remember one night, it was very late at night, I couldn't sleep, I was sweating with vertigo and fear. And at that time, for the first time in my life, I was 10 years old, I think I came to the realization of the fact that I was mortal, that I wasn't going to live forever, that at some point my life was going to end. And thinking of that, I was trying to figure it out, what will happen after death. And I had two options in my mind as a 10-year-old kid. The first one was that, just consciousness just vanishes and everything stops, and that's you out, you're done, you're not coming back. And option two was that I was going to live on after life in another way. Maybe consciousness was going on to live. I don't think I was using those words, those terms at the time, but I could see that there could be a life after death. But if there was a life after death, was there another death after that? And probably not. And if there was not another death after that, it means that I will go on to live forever. And somehow in my mind, I couldn't really believe option one. I couldn't really believe that life would just end like that. It didn't really make sense to me. So I was thinking, I'm going to go on to live after death, and thinking about those kind of unimaginable distances and years and, infinite time and space. I was thinking, when am I going to die then? When is it going to stop? And I think it's at that time I had a kind of realization of also not just time but also space as well, and it was just too much. It was just too much. It was a kind of shattering through reality as a young boy, 10 years old, and it really gave me vertigo. I couldn't really cope with the thought of dying and living after death and infinity. It was just too much. And I remember at the time thinking, okay, maybe I just need to ask my grandparents. Maybe my grandparents will be able to help me and let me know what happens after death. So I went downstairs and I went to my grandparents' bedroom, and my grandfather was Sicilian, and he was quite a big character. And they were like, why are you doing, you're so up late at this time, like, what are you doing? And I tried to explain what I was doing, and they completely shut me down. They said, whoa, why are you worrying about death? You're 10 years old, we're 17 years old. We should worry about it, not you, just go back to your room. I was like, okay. So I went back to my room and I thought, look, they don't really have a clue. But my parents, they will know. So I just thought I'm just going to wait for my parents to come back. And my parents came back, and it took me quite a while to actually, sort of take the courage to talk about something like that to my parents. Because it's quite a big thing, And I remember being in the car, we were coming back from my grandparents' place, being in the car and telling them. And I was sure that they were going to be able to give me some answers or some explanation. And they're probably very skillful in their own way. But again, I realized they really didn't have a clue. They didn't have a clue about death, but also I realized they didn't really have a vocabulary or language to talk about it with me. And I just realized, people don't really have a clue about this massive thing that we're all going to experience and go through one day, And I think at that time, I didn't know it, but I think probably it was my first existential crisis, and probably it sort of marked the beginning of a spiritual quest, a questing about life, a questing about death, and what is going on and what we are supposed to do here and what might happen after death being such a mystery. And the Buddha to be Siddhartha Gautama, as well went through a tremendous existential crisis. I was thinking, most of us must have been through an existential crisis. It feels like almost, if you're alive, that's like a rite of passage. You do have to go to some sort of existential crisis, and maybe it's a good thing. I didn't know, nobody told me, look, you're going through an existential crisis, and don't worry, it's okay, that's okay. Nobody told me that, but it was fine. The Buddha went through this tremendous existential crisis that took him to leave the palace, to live a very, very comfortable life, the luxury, the comfort, the security, anything you can imagine in a material way. He left all of that. He left feeling a strong visceral sense that there was something more to life, that what convention, what his father was offering him at the time, what he was experiencing, what he was living. And he left the palace. That's what took him to go to the jungle, to meet many teachers, many communities, to go forth, to really go forth from everything. And at some point, on the 1st of May, whether it was the 1st of May, maybe not, but on the full moon in May, it's what took him sitting at the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. It's what allowed him to gain a new type of consciousness, the enlightened consciousness. Yeah. So we heard about it today. We heard from Shodhamanini that it's absolutely ineffable. It's a very difficult word for me to say, ineffable. We heard that actually in some ways it's inexplicable. However, I'm going to try to touch on that because, as Maitreya said, and I really like that, it's the kind of Buddhist Big Bang. It's like enlightenment, the enlightenment of the Buddha. It's what actually inspired the whole of the Buddhist tradition. Buddhism does not stem out of a teaching, out of philosophy, out of thinking. It stems out of an experience, and this experience is the experience of Siddhartha Gautama gaining a new type of consciousness under the Bodhi tree 2600 years ago. So what happened, the Buddha talks about it. I'm not sure I fully understand it, but the Buddha talks about it, and I'm just going to try to evoke that on Buddha Day today. So sometimes the Buddha used images. Sometimes he used the image of gaining knowledge or light, that he was living a life where everything was kind of pitch dark and suddenly light came through and he could see. Sometimes it's described his experience as having perfect vision, right vision, seeing things as they are, seeing through the nature of how things are. Sometimes he talked about it in terms of being asleep, that he was asleep, he was dreaming, and he woken up from a dream, and he's woken up into reality, into the reality of how things are. One way that I find a little bit more easier to understand, not easy but easier to understand, is when the Buddha gained this type of consciousness, what happened to him is that he had a way of experiencing the world which was completely unselfish. Yeah. So in a way, sometimes it's described as his mind being completely deconditioned. Yeah, and I'm going to try to touch on that. Us, in our ordinary way to experience things, is we, all of us, including myself, all of us, when we're born, what happens is that we're identified with a sense of me, a sense of I. Yeah, all our experiences are kind of mixed up to an identification with the me. Yeah, I am me, separated from you out there. Yeah, there's a separation. I'm me, I'm Prajnaghosa, I'm talking right now, and you are here, hopefully, maybe not, listening to me. Yeah, and I also trying to identify with things that are mine and not mine. Yeah, there's a grasping. So for example, I'm just going to give you an example. And we do that all the time, is absolutely automatic. We bring every experience to ourselves. So on Wednesday, Maitreya and I, we went out to the restaurant, Bravi Ragazzi in Streatham Hill. I used to live there. Very good Italian restaurants. They do vegan pizzas, gluten-free as well. I really recommend it. Maitreya and I just hanging out, having nice pizzas, and talking about football. I don't know anything about football. Like, literally nothing. Maybe some things, but these days not much. And I know that Maitreya is a big supporter of Arsenal. I like Arsenal. I think they're good. Well, actually, I don't know anything about football. Maybe it was Thierry Henry was playing there. So, you know, there's a self-identification. Thierry Henry is French, playing for Arsenal. So I kind of like Arsenal because he's French and I'm French. You can see where I'm getting to. So I know that Arsenal was playing, is the Champions League happening at the moment. They're playing against Madrid, not Real Madrid, the other Madrid. And I was asking him, they are in semi-final, and I was asking Maitreya, who else is playing, you know, so to know who else might be able to win the Champions League. And he said to me, he said, it's actually you and the Bayern de Munich. And when he said me, I said, oh, who's playing? And he said Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, yeah. And I said, oh, no, that's not me. Paris Saint-Germain, it's not me. Why? Because I'm French, but as a teenager, I used to be into football. I used to watch football games. I don't anymore. But as a teenager, at the time, I don't know if that's the case today, there was a big rivalry between the south of France and Paris. And for us, Paris was just like, no, you know. And so I don't mind about football at all. I'm not following football at all. I don't care about football at all. And yes, it's telling me that Paris Saint-Germain, you know, is associated Paris Saint-Germain with my team. And I'm like, no! And I feel myself like really reacting against that. Can you see where I'm getting to with that kind of self-identification, you know, which happens all the time. Everything that happens, we're circling that back to me and I. What I want, what it's mine, or what I don't want, what it's not mine, yeah? The Buddha completely dropped that sense of self-identification. He completely dropped any conditioning. And his mind become what we call deconditioned, free of any grasping. And it's said that came with a tremendous relief and release, yeah? A tremendous relief and release, yeah? Why? Because when we're identifying ourselves with the I or not I, that comes with a grasping. Yeah? It comes with a grasping. And that grasping is a clinging that brings tension. Yeah? And that tension creates suffering. It's like a craving. The Buddha said, without craving, there's no suffering. As soon as you find craving, you find suffering. What is the root of craving? The root of craving is an identification with the self. Yeah? You let go of the craving, you let go of the grasping, you let go of the tension. You completely relax, and when you completely relax between craving and aversion, what you find is pure awareness, an awareness that is completely detached, completely free. And when you are in those states, the natural quality of awareness emerges. Yeah? And it's not that the Buddha wasn't aware, it's not the Buddha just disappeared, because it's still, you know, he still had a body. He had a body that he was using as convention, you know, to eat and to go on in the world. But he wasn't just identifying with it all the time like we do, yeah? And when you're in that state, as I said, the natural quality of awareness emerge, they arise. And those natural qualities, it said that his awareness was completely free, unbounded, unlimited, spacious, because there was no stop in the identification. Everything was absolutely free. It also said that his awareness was wise. It was wise because us, when we're looking at anything really, there's always a filter that goes through the lenses of the self. Yeah. So do I like the atmosphere right now or not? The weather, it's sunny, you know. Do I like the sun or not? The Buddha wasn't doing that. The Buddha was just saying the sun as the sun. It's sunny. When it rains, it's just rain. It wet. That's it, you know. It's sometimes it's called as being like the mirror-like wisdom, because like a mirror. So imagine a perfect mirror reflects reality exactly as it is. Yeah, the mirror doesn't take side. The mirror doesn't judge. The mirror just shows you reality as it is. Yeah. So it's said to be basically wise. It's a kind of awareness that takes all the joys and the suffering in the world with a sense of equanimity. Yeah. It also said that his awareness was connected and loving. Yeah. So when awareness is free of any kind of attachment, awareness in a way doesn't have that self-identification. So it's just free, and awareness, instead of just in a way limiting itself with the body, there's an identification with all living beings, with all life. Yeah. So you're not feeling any danger anymore because you're not identifying with the self. There's no danger anymore, there's no threat, and what you do, in contrast, you actually identify yourself with all living beings. There's almost a sense of, not even almost, there's probably a sense of oneness and connection with all life, a sense of interconnectedness. Yeah? I think it's hard to understand. But myself, I have come across one or two people in my life which had those qualities. I remember meeting up with Bhante Sangharakshita for the first time, and at the time I just wanted to see if he was my teacher or not, and I wanted to meet up with him, and I had a set of questions that I wanted to ask him, and I went to Adhisthana, the place where he was living. I wanted to meet up with him. He was 93 years old. It was just 3 months before he died, so he was a very old man. And you will go to Adhisthana, and if you were lucky enough, you were able to meet him, and you usually meet up with him for half an hour. And you go to his study, to his room, and you just chat with him for half an hour. And on the third day where I was here, I was going to leave the day after. On the third day, someone called me, and I had the luck to actually meet up with him. And I remember entering the room thinking, I wanted to see if this person was my teacher or not. I had a set of questions. And I remember entering the room and feeling a really peculiar sense of love. Yeah, it was really weird. It was almost like I sat down and there was a bubble, which was really tangible. I almost wanted to touch it, of love that was just coming my way. It's as if I was just being met with a kind of pure, loving awareness, which wasn't just bounded with the physical senses. I felt that from him. I'm not claiming that he was enlightened, but I think that he made enough progress in his life to be able to exhibit some qualities that maybe the Buddha had. And at that point, nothing was rational anymore. I didn't know what to ask him anymore. All my questions just disappeared. And in fact, I was just like, oh yes, I'm just meeting my teacher. There's no need to ask anything else. Anyway, it was a bit awkward, but it was a very, very good meeting. And I left feeling like I was in a higher state of consciousness. I left with a bit of a sense of, when you go on retreat, and after when you come back, you feel in a higher state of consciousness for a few days. It lasted for a few days, actually. Anyway, so the Buddha is there, having experienced his new type of consciousness, a consciousness that is wise, spacious, with knowledge and love and connection, is there sitting completely motionless, just enjoying the bliss of his experience. So it's really hard to imagine how blissful he must have been, just being there, sitting under the Bodhi tree for 7 days. He was so blissful that he sat for 7 days absolutely motionless, just enjoying the bliss of his experience. That must be absolutely wonderful. So the people who go on retreat, sometimes they might know what I'm talking about, but it's just a glimpse of what we get. The Buddha was, fully realized this experience of bliss. Yeah, and he stayed, as I said, for 7 days in the tree, completely motionless. After that, he awakened from his experience. He opened his eyes, and apparently, for another week, he was in a state of gratefulness, and he sat in front of the tree, and at that time he was just there feeling really grateful. So you can imagine he's just had this incredible experience that lasted for 7 days. He's there, he's working out what's going on, but the first thing that comes to mind, the first natural quality that emerged out of his experience is a sense of gratitude. And he's got gratitude for the tree. I find that really wonderful, actually, quite touching. In a way, it's showing that, he's feeling grateful for something that is completely natural. The tree is an image of nature. He's realized something that is completely natural. He's aware, is an embodiment of reality. He's facing the tree and he's feeling grateful. And he's also feeling grateful for his family. He's feeling grateful for his father, for his foster mother, for his mother that died when she gave birth to him, and all the people that have been part of his life, all the people that led him to be to the point where he is right now. I'm about to go on a 3-month retreat, on an ordination retreat, the same retreat that I was ordained 5 years ago, almost exactly. And I'm going to be part of the team for this retreat. And we had a meeting with all the guys, so there are like 70 guys who are going to get ordained, and they're going to get ordained in Spain, in Gigaloca, and the retreat will last for 3 months. It's quite a long time. And we had a Zoom meeting with Nyavarcha and Maitreya Bandhu, who are going to lead the retreat. And we were with all the guys, and Nyavarcha was in a way telling us the things that we need to do, especially for the guys who are getting ordained, before going on a retreat. And one of the main things that he was saying is that write a list of names for the people that you feel grateful for, and really trying to be in touch of all the things that you've been on the receiving end of, and the fact that all of that led you to be where you are and to get ordained, very, very soon. And one of the things that he said that struck me, he said also, on that list, write the people that actually you found very difficult. Write those people that were really, really challenging, because they actually allowed you to be where you are today. If it wasn't for them, maybe you won't be here. Anyway, I found that quite moving as well. I've done it as well before going on retreat, on that retreat 5 years ago, on our nation retreat, and I remember trying to sort of be in good terms with all the people that I had difficulties with, and I found that very purifying, very helpful actually. So the Buddha is there, sitting in front of the tree for 7 days. After that, he stays for another 2 weeks. I'm not going to mention so much about those 2 weeks, mainly because, it's not really the focus of what I want to chat about, what I want to talk about today. But what I can tell is that at that time, so you can imagine that he's been through this incredible experience, he's awakened from it, he has a sense of gratefulness, and now he's just trying to figure it out what happened to him. Like, what happened to him? How can he think about it? Sometimes it's described as the 12 nidanas, the chain, the links of the 12 links of the nidana chain. I think what he's trying to understand is that he, as a human being like everyone else, was just part of a cosmic process, a universal process, and in this universal process, we do have a body. Yeah, we have a body to be able not to identify with it, but just to experience this universal process, this cosmic process, and to harmonize ourselves with it. And the Buddha at that time was in contact, you could say, with the full range of the universe. He was able to actually really, in a way, sort of connect with the full range of the universe. And so he's done that for a couple of weeks. And then on the 5th week, until now, he's not seen anyone. He hasn't got any human encounter. Mythical figure has appeared in his consciousness. He met Mara, he met other figures, but he's never actually met a human being until now, since his enlightened consciousness. And someone comes to him, to meet the Buddha. And the person who comes to meet the Buddha, his name is Kejati. He's a Brahmin. and he asked the Buddha a question. And he asked the Buddha, what makes a Brahmin? Yeah, he asked the Buddha, what makes a Brahmin? So I'm just going to give you a bit more context. So we are in medieval India at this time. We live in a society where most of the country is ruled by Hindus, and the Buddha was himself a Hindu. He was born into a Hindu, was actually a Kshatriya, he was born into a Hindu caste, the warrior caste. And the Indian society was classified in 4 different castes. The Brahmin, the priest, Kajati is a Brahmin. The warrior, the Kshatriya, the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, was a Brahmin. And then you've got the Vaishya, the merchant, and then you've got the Shudra, who are the workers. And then you've got also subcaste. So for instance, if you're the bottom of the pile of the caste, you've got the Dalit, the untouchable. So if you're an untouchable, for instance, it's actually outlawed now to do that, but back in the day, until not that long ago, before 1946, before the new Indian constitution, it was drafted by Dr. Ambedkar, the caste system was actually, you could be punished by the law if you were an untouchable. For instance, you were not allowed to go in temples. If you will drink or if you would touch the water from the common well, from the village well or the city well, people will not touch the water anymore because you will pollute the water, because from your caste, you are an outcast, an undercast, you will pollute other people. And I'm afraid to say that this caste system is still very much alive in India, but it's not punished by the law, it's outlawed now. And with the Indian Hindu, I must say, society, you don't enter a caste, you're born into a caste and you stay in your caste. Yeah? And Kajati, his name means the one who makes the sound yeah? Maybe it's not maybe it's more like yeah? You know, So that gives you a bit of an idea. He's a bit arrogant, he's a Brahmin, he's a bit snooty, and he comes to the Buddha, and in a way, he sees the Buddha, he knows the Buddha is a Kshatriya, is a warrior, he's not a priest, so he's not a holy person, and he asks the Buddha in a way, who do you think you are to stand here as a Kshatriya, you know, who do you think you are to stand as a holy man here, yeah? And he says, in his word, he says, what makes a Brahmin? In a way, kind of challenges the Buddha. And the Buddha completely rejects Kajati. He says, what makes a Brahmin is not your birth, but it's your worth. Yeah? In other words, he says, what makes a Brahmin, it's not actually, it's actually your moral values, whether you've done anything that was not evil in the world, whether you actually thinking deeply into life, if you have study life, what's a Brahmin is not someone who's arrogant. In other words, the Buddha says, what makes a Brahmin is not you. Yeah? It's not you, Kajati. And you can see that the Buddha, just as his first human interactions, completely rejects any social hierarchy. He completely rejects any social hierarchy because he sees that actually social hierarchy, a community in which you're born into a caste, it means that you've got a label that actually glued on your face and you can't escape it. It's not a society that is conducive to growth. It's not a society that is conducive to spiritual development. In fact, it's a society that is dividing and harmful to humanity. And he sees that and he rejects it. He absolutely rejects it. And Kajati, funny enough, later on in the story, he becomes a disciple of the Buddha. And apparently the disciples of the Buddha find Kajati quite difficult. They find him difficult, and the Buddha has quite a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy for Kajati, and he says, look, he's born as a Brahmin for whenever he was born. He identified himself as a Brahmin with all those privileges, and of course, that's going to stay a mark, that's going to leave a mark, and of course it's going to be a bit difficult. Anyway, Kajati lives. The Buddha completely rejects any social hierarchy. He rejects the command from Hong Kajati. And after that, he's kind of, you can see, he's kind of processing what's happening, what's going on, what he has experienced, what's reality, and what kind of world can we live as human beings where we can actually grow and develop and realize this consciousness. Yeah? Is kind of working out, is working out. And another side of him working out his experience and wanting to teach is that at some point he had a desire to communicate his experience. He had a desire to communicate his experience, but he was not sure, and he had doubts. He had doubts because he knew that his experience that he's just attained was very, very difficult to understand. We heard that from Shoda Malini, was very, very difficult to see, and he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to teach. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to teach, and he had doubts. And it's only when he had this vision of lotuses, so you can imagine him coming up with a vision, seeing like a pond of lotuses, like humanities, and seeing human beings like as lotuses at different stages of their lives. Some are actually quite in the mud, some are going out of the water, some are fully bloom, and he realizes out of metta and the suffering in the world, out of Maitri, metta, compassion, that he wants to teach. He wants to teach. He wants to go out and teach his experience to the world. So I'm going to pause here. Because I think it's really, really important to realize that his desire to teach, his desire to communicate, in a way, his desire to start Buddhism stemmed out of metta, Maitri. So Maitri, metta, you find Maitri, you don't find metta before that, but you find Maitri in the scriptures before the Buddha gained his consciousness and kickstarted Buddhism. But it's for the first time in history that actually metta, a sense of universal and kindness, a sense of desire for the welfare of all beings, a sense of connection with all life, it's the first time that metta was being completely central to a religion. It hasn't happened before. It's quite familiar to us because you find it in Christianity, you find it also in Islam, but it's the first time in history that metta Maitri became completely central to a teaching, completely central to a religion. It's out of metta that the Buddha wants to teach. Yeah? And when we think about it, when the Buddha completely rejected any social hierarchy and asserted moral values and spiritual values over, the lottery of birth, wealth, caste, classes that we have in India, in England, for us ourselves, the Buddha, by doing that, and by teaching on the basis of Maitri, a sense of solidarity for all living beings, a sense of common humanity, it's like we're part of the same sort of human family, a sense of connection and love. By doing that, it's said that the Buddha kind of launched a revolution. He launched a revolution. And he launched a revolution because in a way, at the time, it was still the case. The world is kind of falling apart. The world has always been falling apart. The world has always been on fire. At the time of the Buddha, it was true. It is true for now, today. But I think particularly today, we are up against very, very strong forces. I think our secular, materialistic world is not going to do very much against racism, fanatism, nationalism. If we really want to change things, if we really want to change the world, there will have to be a kind of revolution in consciousness. This is the only way we're going to change the world, is by having a revolution in consciousness, where we can transform consciousness, our self-consciousness, and the consciousness of other people. I think our secular, modern, hedonistic, kind of materialistic culture, it's not going to do very much against those strong forces. Our spiritual community can make a difference. Our spiritual community, when we relate to each other on the basis of metta to transform consciousness, can really make a difference in the world. And I think it's really important that as Buddhists, we're not taking that for granted. That when you serve, when we are serving a spiritual community, you are acting, you are engaged with the world. In fact, I think it's probably one of the most effective ways that we can engage with the world to change the world. Yeah? And I actually really mean that. However, there's a caveat. Because Buddhism has come down to us in terms of, especially in the West, in terms of psychology. You know, in terms of how can I become more happy, how can I become more well, and my state of mind, and my sort of meditation. Yeah, and if we're not careful, what can happen? If we're not careful, is that Buddhism and our practice can become a sense of refining the self, a sense of refined selfishness. Yeah. If I don't have an altruistic dimension in my life where I can serve a bigger vision and be in contact with other people, that's not Buddhism. We're not doing Buddhism. If you have an altruistic dimension in your life, in your practice, and if you are serving a spiritual community, it could be this spiritual community, it could be another community. If you are serving and if there is an altruistic expression of your practice in your life, you are actually being engaged, you are making a difference in the world. Yeah? So the Buddha starts a revolution 2600 years ago. He realized that some people with a little less dust on their eyes will understand. He wants to teach. Out of metta, out of karuna. Karuna is compassion. Karuna is just an expression of metta. Karuna is just metta coming across suffering turns into compassion. So out of karuna, out of compassion, out of maitri and metta, the Buddha wants to teach. The Buddha goes into the world. That's very important as well. The Buddha doesn't just stay there and waits for disciples to come. The Buddha stands up, walks to Sarnath. Sarnath is a long distance away from Bodh Gaya, from the Bodhi tree. He walks to Sarnath. He thinks of his friends, the 5 ascetics. He thinks of his friends. He meets with his friends and he communicates the Dharma. Yeah, he communicates the Dharma, he communicates the vision, and they understand, they become enlightened. Buddhism starts. Yeah? They create the Buddhaland. Yeah? And they create a land in which we're part of today. It's a kind of land that goes beyond time and space, you know. 2600 years later, it's really hard to imagine. We're still here and we're still building the same Buddhaland here in Brixton, in the midst of London. You know, it's incredible, in the mix of such a rich range of community, and we're all here, we're all coming together, we're all creating a Buddhaland. A Buddhaland is a place where people can grow and develop. A Buddhaland is a place where people can come together, practice the Dharma, and realize full and perfect enlightenment. And this is what we're doing, and this is what we've been doing for the last, I'm not sure, decades, and it's probably what we will do for quite a long time. And this is not my vision. This is something that I've just observed, what people were doing, what Amaladana was doing, Maitrana, Amara Pushpa, all the people who've been around, Ratnashuddha, Viranaga, Suduka, all the people that have been around, you know, and had a vision for, you know, it's absolutely incredible that we've come to a place where now we're just on the brink of actually having a Buddhist center and being able to express that vision. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. We can take a breath. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to do this vision with you. So I've got 10 minutes left. And what we're going to do, we've got a flip chart. Okay, And we're going to do it together. We're going to do it together. So I'm just going to write. It's an attempt to do a Buddha. Maybe I should write. So we know what it is? Buddha. Okay, so I know, I have no idea. I mean, I didn't quite work out how this will pan out, but let's see, let's just do it. So, what do you think we need to create a Buddhaland?
Friendship.
Boom. I'm gonna say something about that. So friendship. So the Buddha did not just wait for the disciples to come to him. Did not just find any sort of random person in India just walking by. No. He knew exactly who he wanted to teach, and who he wanted to teach was his friend. And that's very, very important. Friendship is the whole of the spiritual life. I'm paraphrasing the Buddha, the words of the Buddha. It's with friends. We're doing that in an atmosphere of friendship with lila and play. It's interesting. There's so many network of friendship just right there in this room. For years, myself and Maitreya, we know each other for like almost 10 years. We lived in 3 different houses. I know Shraddha Malini for how long? How many years? Maybe 10 years, you know? Amanadana, it's long way back. And you, amongst yourself, you've been friends for so long, maybe longer. Friendship is so important, and yet we don't always value that. We live in a society that don't really value friendship always. It's interesting, when you meet with people and you ask them, imagine you're at a party or something, you ask them what are they doing with their lives, they'll never tell you, oh yeah, at the moment I'm just being really good friends with, never. That's crazy, I think we should take friendship as an end in itself. Like Maitreya and I have been friends for so long, and I'm sure we'll be friends for lifetimes. It's not always easy, but we're friends, and we really, really value that. My teachers, which are our teachers, Maitreya Bandhu and Yayavarcha, they've been friends for more than 30 years. I was at Padmaloka 2 weeks ago. They were giving a talk, the two of them giving a talk. And what you see is there's so much friendship between them. I mean, they're just cracking one joke after. It's delightful. And I was like, in my life, this is what I want. This is what I want. Friendship is absolutely key, is one of the main ingredients to create the Buddhaland. What else? Love? Yes, of course, that's very, very important. I'm going to put metta, yeah? Because love, it's not enough, it's not specific enough. Metta. A community in which we relate to one another on the basis of metta, on the basis of the fact that we genuinely want other people to do well. We should take that as a project. Love is also the main ingredient. Our friendship, metta and the Brahmaviharas, karuna, upeksha, compassion, karuna, compassion, upeksha, equanimity, which are all basically stemming out of metta. Metta is the main ingredient to build the Buddhaland, a spirit of friendship. If you find yourself in a place where you find people who are friends and have a sense of metta, it's extremely attractive. Yeah? And that gives you a clue about the next ingredient that we need to create the Buddhaland. Attractive?
Beauty?
Beauty, that's it. So the Buddhaland, those friendship, they're so beautiful. Kalala Mitrata means beautiful. Beautiful friendship. They're so beautiful, they're so attractive. The Buddhaland is so attractive, it's a place of beauty that when you come across the Buddhaland, you see that there's nothing more worthwhile to do with your life. Beauty is absolutely key. What we want to do here with this place, we want to convert this place into a place of beauty. Yeah. When you come and it's beautiful, it's like you stop thinking about your problems. You just, there's beauty there. You stop thinking about the self. You just, in a way, open. Beauty is absolutely crucial. So we have beauty, but not a superficial type of beauty. Yeah. It's another type of beauty. Maybe beautiful friendship will be enough to actually create the Buddhaland. Yeah. Community, absolutely. So in a way, Maître Bandhu says that what we must do is to follow a transcendental vision in a spirit of friendship, in a culture of friendship, for the benefit of all beings. And what you've got here is you've got a community of friendship, being friends on the basis of metta, which could be the transcendental vision, for the benefit of all. For the benefit of all. Okay, I'm gonna take some more. Generosity, yes. Well, maybe But that's very good. That's going to give us a little bit of leeway for the fundraising appeal that's coming right next. It's like a segue, Effort, yes. That's very good for the fundraising appeal as well. It's very good. Carry on. Energy, yes. But in a way, these are just faith, yes.
Joy.
Yes. I mean, all of those, they come under this sort of category of, vision of metta and friendship.
I'd like to say welcoming this sense of openness.
Yes.
Buddha, like anyone who join in.
Yes. Yes.
Anyone.
Yes.
From any background.
So we are part of a... Yes. What's your name?
Fred.
Federico.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Federico. Yes, you're absolutely right, Federico. It's like we relating to each other on the basis of metta and our common humanity. It's like we're part of all the same human family. So it doesn't matter where you come from, what you do. You're just relating to another human being as like a fellow human being. That's how you, on the basis of metta, and the fact that they can grow, they can develop, they can become another Buddha. Yeah.
Vision and insight.
Vision and insight. Okay, and I'm gonna give you the clue. I'm gonna give you a clue, which is not a sorry. Ah.
One here, one there.
Dharma, absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna give you a clue for the last one that I will take. I'm sure we could go on. But a Buddhaland, it's a vision. Yeah, it's mainly a vision. It's something that basically we cultivate amongst ourselves as people, as a community. Is something that we express. But what we might need in order to express that vision, what we might need.
Need a space.
That's it! Could you say more?
You need a Brixton Centre where we...
Yes! A center. Thank you very much, Alison. Okay, I'm going to stop here because I'm running out of time. Sorry, guys. But I want to start by saying one thing. So when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old, and I came into a realization of death, and I was very scared. And I was very scared for a long time. I was very afraid of death for a long time. Death has been a massive feature of my life. I think about death, talk about death, a bit too much maybe, a lot. And I'm glad as a 40 years old now, I'm going to celebrate my 40th birthday in August, just a plug. I'm glad as a 40 years old person, I have found a context where I can make sense of those big matters, and I must say that I'm not afraid of death anymore. I have found enough meaning in my life to make sense of such a big thing. And I mean, I'll probably be afraid of dying, of the act of dying, but I'm not afraid about life after death anymore. In fact, I'm quite excited about it, you know. So I just wanted basically to finish with that and to say that, you know, it feels like a real privilege to be able to do that in the context of a community while, you know, trying to express a vision, which is, you know, a universal vision. So I'm just going to finish with a few words from a book. So this book is called The Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path. It's the first ever Buddhist book that I bought in my life. I bought it it's not actually this copy, I bought it at the London Buddhist Central reception. When I was very, very new to Buddhism. I wasn't a Buddhist at all, but I was interested. And the reason I bought this book, I had no idea it was Bhante Sangharakshita. I must say, actually, there's something missing as well here that maybe I must say I forgot to say, and I think it's quite important. We also need a lineage. And a lineage is a lineage of teacher and teaching. And everything that I've said today is inspired by Bhante Sangharakshita's exposition of the Dharma. I think it's important that I say that as well. So at that time, I didn't know who was Bhante Sangharakshita, who's now my teacher, and the person who founded this movement. But the reason why I bought it is because there was a picture of a city. There was a picture of a city, it's Times Square. And I thought, oh, I want Buddhism for now, for my life. I don't want Buddhism for, you know, people who practice in a monastery or practice, you know, like 1,000 years ago. I want something that I can relate to right now. And this is why I bought this book, amazing book by Bhante Sangharakshita, Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path. But he quoted Einstein. And I just wanted to finish I just want to finish this presentation with a few words from Einstein. The religion of the future will be a cosmic religion. It should transcend personal God and avoid dogma and theology, covering both the natural and the spiritual. It should be based on religious sense arising from the experience of all things, natural and spiritual, as a meaningful unity. Buddhism answers this description. If there is any religion that could cope with modern scientific needs, it will be Buddhism. This is from Einstein. Thank you very much.